The Kansas City Chiefs find themselves on the road in the Dome for the first time this season, and they are looking to move to 3-0, one of the very few still undefeated teams in the NFL. We have a full breakdown and preview and prediction for the Chiefs versus the Falcons. And I want to start with the Chiefs offense. When the Chiefs run the ball, this is going to be a big mystery heading into this game because they are, of course, without Isaiah Pacheco. But that does not mean they're without talent. Carson Steele is a power runner, the UDFA, and he's, I think, going to get his first opportunity to start in the NFL. And being a power runner, this actually plays into the strength of this offensive line. He's a guy that I think is going to be able to break a few tackles and move the pile in ways that Isaiah Pacheco has not been able to do thus far in his NFL career, but he does not have the speed that Isaiah Pacheco does have. This is going to be a game where if the Chiefs can average 5 yards per carry, they're going to maybe run away with this thing, and I think that could be the case. Isaiah Pacheco being out is not the most ideal situation, obviously, for the Kansas City Chiefs, but this gives Carson Steele an extended opportunity to preview what we could expect from him in the future. He is going to be, I believe, on that UDFA contract here for 3 years, and this gives the Kansas City Chiefs their halfback, fullback, sort of hybrid type of guy. And if he can carry the ball and prove himself worthy of being a feature back, that's going to be a big deal for the Chiefs moving forward. The Falcons' D-line is a bit undersized for a 3-4 group, and I think that running style from Carson Steele could prove to be dangerous in this game. This Falcons defensive line is not just undersized, they've lacked a bit of productivity through the first couple of games, and we'll get to a point later in this sort of preview for the running game that is going to maybe be pivotal for the Chiefs. Now, with those two backs, Samaje Perine and Carson Steele, I don't see any reason really to have Keontae Ingram on the field. The Chiefs like to utilize all of their backs during a game, keep the fresh guy in. Keontae Ingram is maybe a fringe NFL talent. I don't think that Samaje Perine or Carson Steele would be described that way. So I don't see any reason to have Keontae Ingram on the field if you think you can get through this game with Samaje Perine and Carson Steele, unless there is a bit of a... if the Chiefs are running away with this thing, Keontae Ingram could see extended playing time because you don't want to risk having another running back injured. So I would split these reps as long as this is a competitive game, 100% between Carson Steele and Samaje Perine. Now, here's the big thing here. Neither Grady Jarrett nor David Onyemata practice on Friday. Jarrett has 94 snaps so far this season, and Onyemata has 81 snaps so far this season. Both of these players play a whole lot of football for the Falcons. So I believe Rook Oro would be the next defensive tackle up, the next heavy defensive lineman in this group. He's a rookie. He's undersized for a nose tackle, and if you can get in situations where he is on the field, you have a veteran front in Trey Smith, Creed Humphrey, that is going to be able to really maybe put the work on him so long as they can do that. I think that this game is a prime opportunity for the Chiefs to maybe impose their will in the running game. Now, when the Chiefs pass the ball, I think this will open things up this week. The Falcons' D-line is not strong, and Mahomes will have time. That's going to be necessary against the Falcons' defense that plays a lot of zone. I think with the Falcons playing zone and Mahomes having time, this could be the game where we see Kelce emerge from kind of the depths of his career so far this season. And if Kelce starts to click, Mahomes to Kelce starts to click, this offense, this could be a get-right game for the offense. Now, the Falcons are not pushovers, and Matthew Judon has 1.5 sacks on the season already, and this looks to be a bit of a bounce-back season for him. If the left tackle position for the Kansas City Chiefs can hold up, and Mahomes does get that time that it appears he will be able to have in this game, that zone defense for the Falcons is going to get absolutely picked apart. As far as the defensive backs for the Falcons are concerned, Mike Hughes starts for the Falcons. And, just saying, we're familiar with Mike Hughes around here. He has a 4.53 40-yard dash. Not terrible, but that's sort of the bottom half of what you want to see on your corners in the NFL. And a matchup with him and Xavier Worthy would be interesting. Andy Reid is a king of getting the matchups that he wants. So there's a couple that could prove interesting. If you get Justin Simmons on the field, the safety, on the same side of the field, as Mike Hughes, Justin Simmons runs a 4.63. Now, he's a good safety. He is crafty. He's not going to make things easy for the Chiefs offense, but a side of the field that has Mike Hughes and Justin Simmons is going to be compelling for this Chiefs offense because they will have a definitive speed advantage, more than likely, on that part of the field. D. Alford, one of their other cornerbacks, is 5'11", 177. If Andy Reid can find his way to getting Rashee Rice in a matchup against D. Alford is a very compelling story. He's a very feel-good story, but that doesn't mean he is not susceptible to the same type of bully ball that Rashee Rice has been running wild against the NFL thus far this season, and in the latter half of last season and the playoffs last season, the playoffs ostensibly against the best teams in football. If Rashee Rice can do that to those players, to those defenses, to those schemes, then I think he could have a big day against this defense as well, especially if you can get him matched up against D. Alford. I think you are likely to see a lot of too high safety looks in this game. The Falcons run a lot of zone defense, and the cover two, the too high safety look has proven to be effective against this offense. So if you can get Kelce rolling underneath that too high safety look, if you can get Rashee Rice playing a little bit of bully ball, it should really soften things up against this defensive backfield for the Falcons, and we could start to see the Kansas City Chiefs score quite a few points, especially if this is exacerbated by the fact that they don't want to rely on that running game. If Carson Steele and Samaje Perine, again, can average 5 yards a carry against this defense, which I think is a legitimate reality, then the Chiefs offense is really going to get its wings this game. They're going to start rolling. It's possible. And I'll get to this a little bit later, but this is going to be the most favorable matchup for the Chiefs thus far this season. Now, when the Chiefs are on defense, when the Falcons run the ball, the Falcons can really run the football. Bijan Robinson averaged 6.9 yards versus the Eagles, and Algier averaged 5.9. That is scary for this defense, where they are more susceptible to the run than the pass. There has been a lot of investment in the defensive backfield for the Kansas City Chiefs. So the linebackers are going to need to step up. If the linebackers step up and they start to get a little bit of purchase against this Falcons offense, the Falcons offense could be stymied. Leo Chenal will need to have his third consecutive incredible game. And if Nick Bolton starts to get his legs under him a little bit and starts to be the run plugger that we used to know him as, and that he can do in the NFL, I still don't know how much of Nick Bolton's struggles are his limited time in the preseason and his injury versus him just taking a step back, right? The Nick Bolton that we have had this season has been what the fears were about Nick Bolton coming out of college. So it could be that NFL offenses have started to really put the pins down and target Nick Bolton, or it could just be again that he was injured early in the preseason and doesn't really have his legs under him yet. Now, he's unlikely to ever be a premier linebacker against the pass, but he has struggled against the run as well this season. That has been the real setback for this Chiefs defense. If he can figure that out and get back to the Nick Bolton of old, then the defense will prove formidable for the rest of this season. Now, the Falcons want to get the running game going downhill to set up the play-action pass because that is where they are strong. But if that fails, like it did in Week 1 versus the Steelers, and this game does not go well in that department, if the Chiefs stop the run, this game could get away from the Falcons. Now, the Falcons aren't a bad team, so it's unlikely for that to happen before, say, midway through the third quarter. If that becomes the turning point for this game, you are likely to see the Chiefs, I think, just all-out blitz Kirk Cousins and this Falcons offense. I think you were likely to see more. I think you were likely to see just the Spags in this defense teeing off at that point, which will make that's how this defense really gets going, is if they can stop the run and teams have to pass against them because the Chiefs have a lead. Things get going for this defense. This is the perfect sort of proving ground for that hypothesis. Now, Mike Pennel and Derek Nottie were both on the injury report all week. These are the Chiefs' big run-stuffing defensive tackles. This would be a huge opportunity for both of these guys to really earn their roster spot. If Mike Pennel can return to the way that he was in the postseason and Derek Nottie can really start to get his season going, that could be disastrous for the Falcons. Now, when the Falcons pass, Cousins is an accurate passer. Kyle Pitts and Drake London provide him very big targets on the offense. So, if they can get running and then use the play-action pass, setting up their great big targets, it could be a long day for the defense. Cousins is an accurate passer, but he is a stationary quarterback. Spags is going to have some things, in my opinion, dialed up, and the D-line can concentrate on rushing a spot rather than... versus, for example, Lamar Jackson, what you saw a lot from the defensive ends is they would get upfield, they would get their penetration, and then they would have to set their offensive tackle to make sure that Lamar Jackson was not allowed lanes to run. We started seeing towards the end of the game, George Karlaftis take the under route on his offensive tackle, which allowed Lamar Jackson to get out a little more. And then the Ravens, really started to terrorize the defense because they were able to break, contain, scramble around, and find targets or just take off. That is not going to be happening with Kirk Cousins. Now, you had to do that a little bit with Burrow too, because while Burrow is not quite the mobile quarterback that is Lamar Jackson, he's I would say a league above Kirk Cousins. So you didn't want him to have extra opportunities that he did not need to have. So the defensive line being able to pick a spot 7 yards in the backfield and say, look, he's not getting outside of that. Kirk Cousins is not going to run around us. We can just rush him and try to get to that spot by whatever means necessary. This could be a massive game for George Karlaftis, even though the Falcons have a pair of tackles that remind me a little bit of Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz from the Kansas City Chiefs just a few seasons ago. They are an athletic pair, and they're underrated. The tackles for the Falcons are really good, in my opinion, for passing the football. So this could be another great day for a DB blitz or two. Now, Cousins is pro enough to be able to recognize when a defensive back is blitzing. But what you're betting on by sending a defensive back is that he is too fast for Cousins to make the necessary adjustments and get the ball out of his hands. I would look for the Chiefs to threaten a blitz from one side of the line and send the defensive back from the other, which means that you are probably sacrificing a few steps by having whatever defensive back is blitzing lined up in the slot and disguising that he is going to be man up or whatever, and then sending him from that side by giving the defensive back on the other side the tell of acting like he feigning the blitz. Drake London is 6'4", 220 pounds. Kyle Pitts is 6'6", 245 pounds, and faster than Drake London, even though he plays tight end. Kyle Pitts has not yet gotten his legs underneath him this season. I believe he has 6 receptions for 46 yards, something like that. This is a game where if you can shut down Pitts and make sure that he does not go off, things could get out of hand for the Falcons. But those are big targets, and Spags is going to have to get creative to bottle them up the same way that he has bottled up other wide receiver tight end duos this season. London is big, but he's a slower wide receiver than McDuffie is normally tasked with covering. Now, I don't think McDuffie is going to be tasked with following London no matter where he is on the field. That does not seem to be the way that this defense likes to play. And above that, you have Jalen Watson and Joshua Williams, who are bigger cornerbacks and might be better at covering London, or at least taking away the stuff that London is really good at than McDuffie. Drew Tranquil is having a bit of a weird season. He's not been on the ball as much, or on point, I guess I should say, as much as we would like for him to be, as much as he was re-signed to be. So we might see Pitts versus the safeties more often than Pitts versus the linebackers. The final prediction on this game, the Falcons look to threaten the playoffs this season. They're in a very good division, so they might not make it, but I think it depends on how this division really ends up looking when they are head-to-head, right? So I think the Falcons could make the playoffs this season, and yes, they have a better record at this point than either the Bengals or the Ravens. But this looks to be the worst team the Chiefs have played yet this season. And if Kansas City's habit of playing down to their opponents is a thing of the past, this could be a big win for Mahomes and company to move to 3-0. You're looking at probably 10 wins to make the playoffs. That would give them 15 opportunities to win 7 more games. I think the Chiefs could win this one going away. Chiefs 34 and Falcons 21. Now, that is not guaranteed, obviously. The Chiefs do have a history of playing down to their opponents. If that is the case, this team with the Pitts and London duo could make things very difficult. And we saw last week with the Falcons versus the Eagles, a very good 2-minute offense from the Falcons. They could look to really implement some more of those things that worked right for them last week in that 2-minute drill. They could start going more no huddle. They could gamble more on their big names on offense. They could spread things out and run the ball up the middle. There's a lot of things this Falcons team can do, and there's a lot of things this Falcons team can do to keep things closer than we would like to see them here in Kansas City. So it's not guaranteed, and if the Falcons do make this a game, I expect this to be another nail-biter for the Kansas City Chiefs. The Falcons are a team that is plucky. The Falcons are a team that are going to, I think, be in the playoff hunt all season. So this is another test for the Chiefs. Nothing is guaranteed for the Chiefs. And further, again, obviously, this is the Super Bowl for the Falcons. The Chiefs have a target on their back. They're going to be the recipient of every team's best effort again. And the Falcons have a good best effort. So it's possible that this is not a runaway affair for the Chiefs, but this is the best opportunity for the Chiefs to have a runaway victory this far in the season. And it's in a dome, so if the Chiefs can utilize their speed, things could get out of hand with both defenses, and this could really be a high-flying affair. and it could take the NFL back to the high-flying days of, say, 2020 with a very high score. But again, my call is the Chiefs 34, the Falcons 21. Let me know what you think in the comments section. That is all I have for this video. Like this video if you want to help me out, because it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping a video every day, so long as I can keep that up. So I would like to have you back for the next one.